Now on Denver 7 News at 4. As the climate changes, so do our chances for floods like last weekend's. The changes the National Weather Service is considering, so you're not caught off guard.
Finding someone's contact information isn't that hard online. People finding websites get it from places, though, we didn't realize. We'll show you just how hard it is to avoid. And Black-owned businesses are rebounding after being hit hard early in the pandemic. What's making a difference for them now?
And we're learning new information about the documents removed from President Trump's Florida home.
There are laws against the improper handling of this material.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Micah Smith. Court documents show that the FBI's search of former President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate earlier this week led to the seizure of documents labeled top secret. According to court filings, the Justice Department is investigating potential violations of at least 3 separate criminal statutes, including a statute under the Espionage Act. Republicans on the House Intelligence Committee are demanding detailed answers from the FBI and the Department of Justice about the search. Ohio Representative Mike Turner said if Attorney General Merrick Garland and FBI Director Christopher Wray do not voluntarily release information to the committee, Democrats on the panel should issue a subpoena compelling them to do so.
We want to know what was this imminent national security threat upon which this was based.
Sources tell ABC News the documents the FBI believed were illegally in Trump's possession were sensitive material with national security implications, and that the DOJ first issued a subpoena for them in April. That was followed by a visit with Trump in June, where FBI agents requested the sensitive material be returned before a search warrant was issued.
They had amazing patience, in my view, considering the apparent sensitivity of what they were going after.
And for the former president says the Justice Department's claims are outrageous and that without evidence, the DOJ is leaking lies. Landmark climate and healthcare legislation is one step closer to President Biden's desk. The House has been debating the bill today, even with strong Republican opposition. The House will likely follow the Senate's footsteps and pass the bill. The bill includes incentives for bolstering technology like solar panels and improving home energy efficiency. It also includes curbs for pharmaceutical prices. Big weather events are becoming more frequent with climate change, so is it time for us to rethink how we classify those big events? A 100-year storm means there is a 1% chance in any given year of a flood, like the one that hit parts of Denver along I-70 last Sunday. But the classification is based on historical data that does not take climate change into account. Now, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, is researching ways to factor climate change in.
We are playing with a stacked deck or a loaded die, essentially. And so when you're talking about extreme precipitation, you can think about that as the 100-year storm is not going to go down in intensity.
No matter how these big storms are classified, though, they're becoming more frequent and more intense. So experts say preparedness is key, and cities and states play a role in that.
Older Americans have had to be resilient, to say the least, in the pandemic, but it's also made them more willing to look for help when it comes to mental health. Nearly half of those 65 and older say they are very willing to seek mental health care today, and it was only 35% before the pandemic.
There's just a higher level of strain on all of us, seniors included. And I think that has also led to an opening up of the idea that A, mental health care matters, and B, if mental health is a challenge, then one should seek out professional services for it.
Dr. Ipsit Vahir says he's seen the number of visits up nearly 30% over a year in his practice. Now, he told us that virtual care has eliminated many barriers for older adults, but also stigma around getting that care hasn't completely gone away.
It starts with not stigmatizing yourself. I think we talk a lot about societal stigma around mental health and not enough about self-stigmatization. But that's a much easier thing to deal with because one is in direct control of it.
But he expects this continue to decrease, especially among those in their mid to late 60s as they age during a time of less stigma. He says, if you're even asking yourself the question of if you need mental health help, it's a sign that you should look into it. Care doesn't necessarily mean seeing a psychiatrist or being on medications, but it can be as simple as just increasing physical activity or communicating with others over technology to help with loneliness. Parents and doctors are getting a better idea of when to look for signs of MIS-C in kids following a COVID infection. It's a rare but serious inflammatory condition. New research in the journal Pediatrics shows nearly 30% of kids with MIS-C started showing symptoms a few months after being diagnosed with COVID. Now, we put a list of the most common ones on your screen right here. You can see it. Another more serious symptom reported was activity impairment, meaning kids had trouble doing day-to-day things. The CDC estimates nearly 9,000 children have dealt with MIS-C as of this month. Now, meanwhile, new research from Yale suggests measuring cortisol levels may be the answer to better diagnosing and treating long COVID in adults. Now, that's the hormone that guides the body's response to stress. Early findings show that patients with long COVID had half the amount of cortisol than people who fully recovered from the virus. Scientists hope that this information will help us better understand how widespread long COVID is. Johnson & Johnson says it will pull all talc-based baby powder off of shelves worldwide next year. It's something that's already been done in the U.S. and Canada. Several lawsuits from people who used the powder claimed it caused a number of cancers. J&J has insisted that medical research proves otherwise. The company says it will replace talc with cornstarch in the powder. Now, the clean energy industry is booming right now, and they're also hiring. So we are giving you an up-close look at the type of training it takes to get ready for these new career paths.
It is hot outside today, and the future promises more hot days in the summers ahead. Up next, the possible building code changes that could give us all a better shot at cooling off this summer.